Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Playbook of the Wealthy. Today we are talking about should you start investing in real estate. If you haven't been here before, my name is Dave Grant. My co-host is Heather Townsend. If you have been here before, that was your last free ride on the last video. Today you are liking, commenting, subscribing, following, sharing it with your mom, with the Facebook group. Put it in the girls or boys chat. I don't know what you need to do, but you got to do something in order to learn more about this content.
Wait, really quick. First interruption. But I also want to say thank you to our listeners because they've been listening to you, Dave. You've seen it in the numbers. Our stats are up. So thank you, everyone. Dave is really, really happy and we notice. So thank you. All right.
They are. The likes, the comments, everything is up. So
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
If you haven't been here before, our podcast is split into 4 sections where you get to know about us professionally. Personally, we dive into content and then we answer questions. We are a financial services podcast, so we do have disclaimers. A gentleman named Jordan is going to speak just as fast as I am, and he's going to give you everything. Here you go.
All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
Jordan, thank you. We're going into our first segment. It changes name every single podcast. Today it's going to be called Heather, how are you?
I'm doing great at TF right now. Still very busy with clients. A lot is going on.
TF is Townsend Financial.
Yeah, TF, Townsend Financial. You know, on one happy note, one of my clients who very successful, has worked really, really hard for many, many, many years. I feel like doesn't normally treat himself, right? Treats the family, treats everyone else. Him and his wife have always wanted this second home where they eventually want to retire. And I said to my client, I was like, well, when are you going to do this thing? Like, just do the thing. Like, you know, life's short. Like, you can do it. And they did it. And I got a text message. So it's on the beach. So this was not a cheap purchase, right? So this is why they held off for so long. But I got a picture of my client on the beach at their new property with his daughter, and it was a sunset, and I could just see like the joy on their face. And, you know, I would be lying if I didn't get teary-eyed. I'm not a very emotional female, except when I get overly happy. That's when I cry, when I'm overly happy. So, and I did tear up, and I was like, this is why. Like, this is the part that I love so much about my job is when you make a client feel really good about finally going after one of their dreams and they go and do it. I don't know. So definitely a high from that. How are you? What's going on?
Oh, good. Lots of organizational things with clients. You know, sometimes the summer slows down a little bit for people as I organize myself to go out of town for an extended trip. And I'm like, it's not like that right now for me. But people sometimes have time. So we're getting on those organizational things of, okay, this we talked about in the spring. I need you to do this now. I know you have some downtime. Let's go ahead and do it. You know, people don't like to do it, but at the end of the day, it has to get done and it's good. Let's dive in.
So today we're going to give our thoughts on investing in real estate. What we've seen with clients, what we know, pros, cons, things to look out for. Anything else you would add to that, Dave?
No, that's good. I mean, this is going to be the start of a series. So we're not diving into all the stuff right now. Let's dip our toes in.
Yeah. Why don't you lead us off?
All right. So for me, when I've had conversations with people about if they're starting to look at investing in real estate, I'm going to go through all the alternatives first, because this is a big jump in a deep pool. So you can actually buy real estate in your portfolio. So they're called REITs, real estate investment funds. You can buy them that are actively managed. So there's real estate in there turning over and being sold and bought. Or you can buy an index where it essentially tracks what real estate trends are doing. So you don't have to buy physical real estate if you don't want to. If you don't want to go that route, you can use online platforms. There's one big one called Fundrise. They are a little bit more active, a little bit more selective of who they choose to take money from. But still, you're not buying the property yourself and taking all the risk. You're kind of diving in with everyone else.
You know what? Fundrise. I had a few clients in that. I might still have one client, like in a small amount, pre-me. Also, there's private investments, right? People getting into partnerships you can do, or like funds that aren't even publicly traded too. Those are some alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can obviously just buy real estate outright yourself.
Yeah. Let's go that route because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. One way right off the bat that I see so many people do because it's easy, especially when in the environment we've been where we bought, at least our generation, we bought our primary, our first home at stupid interest rates. Like my interest rate is 2.75. Like that's ridiculous. It's not real. Mm-hmm. So people want to hold on to that because that property to get a mortgage like that today is unheard of. And it cash flows because you also bought it so low. I mean, since pre-COVID, at least in Arizona, in our like Scottsdale, Phoenix area, our home prices really, we were one of those markets that really, really took off in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of my clients bought their first home and then, moved up and kept their primary as the rental.
Okay. So they didn't actually buy anything, but they just didn't sell it when they were moving up.
And that one, those cash flow very well, I will say. Mm-hmm. Here's the reason that I don't love it, though, with people who do that. You give up your exclusion because your capital gain exclusion, 2 out of the last 5 years, if you've lived in it 2 out of the last 5 years, you don't pay taxes on $250,000 if you're single or $500 if you're married. That is a free tax bill of capital gains right there. That is hard to give up. And with this kind of escalation. So, once they start renting it out, if they've had it for more than 5 years, we can't do the capital gain exclusion. But mm-hmm. I see that that's how a lot of people start is I
agree.
Yeah.
I've had friends who have done that and they've kind of pigeonholed it. Okay, this is my child's college plan. We're just going to pay off the mortgage with the rent that we get. And then we're just going to keep building the equity while we go live in our bigger house. So it's almost the default of we don't want to give up this good rate or good mortgage. We're just going to move. It can be tough, though, because where are you going to get, for people thinking about it, do I use my primary house? Where are you going to get the down payment to move into a bigger house if you're not selling your existing house? So you have to have other ducks in a row before you kind of go this route.
Well, of course. Yes. Some of my clients are just buying an investment property outright, just purely for investment. I actually like that one better probably than using the primary because it's cleaner. You can do 1031 easier, all of that. There are a few of my clients that either have office buildings. They have to rent an office building, right, for their business. It's that type of business that they need brick and mortar or they need a storage facility, something like that. I'm like, yeah, sure, buy the property. Pay the rent to yourself, have that be the tax deduction from the business, have the property be, or the office building be the other separate LLC, and you're paying the rent from the business to an LLC that you also own. That's genius. Like, why not? Personally, if I invest in real estate, that's probably what I would do is a DST because I don't want to be managing property.
What's a DST for people who haven't heard of one before?
Delaware Statutory Trust. There's special tax advantages to it. It's a very complex product. You have to be an accredited investor to get into them. The good ones I've seen, the minimums are like $100K to get in. But, again, not liquid. You need to be very careful that this person that you're investing in knows what they're doing, right? Because that's a lot of money and yeah.
One of the approaches I've seen people who like to have the hands-on approach is they're buying multifamily properties. Like and we're talking duplexes and fourplexes. We're not talking about apartment buildings at this point, like keeping it smaller scale.
Yeah.
But you're essentially buying the building. Say you're buying a fourplex. You buy the building, you live in one of those units and you rent the other 3 out. Hopefully, if rents are the way they are, those rents can cover your mortgage and you live there for free. If it goes over that, then that can go into maintenance or, paying down the mortgage faster. But then you essentially can start to leverage that with, okay, if you get some equity over time, you can use that equity to then buy some more real estate and you still have a place to live if you're still willing to live in one of those places.
I read a whole book on multifamily. I love that, especially because there's a special loan. If you were going to live in the property, one of the units, you can get sometimes a better rate or lower down payment. there's special like loans for multifamily too. It's a whole different world.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, you also don't have to manage this. Like you could then say if you bought an apartment building, you can then hire a management company to run the whole thing for you, and you're essentially just funding it. So they're collecting the rents, they're running the maintenance, they're doing all of this. You can be hands off if you want to and just be the funder of it. If you want the tax breaks, you want to still be involved, because as soon as you start turning it into a passive investment, it doesn't really work as well. You want to be active in it, but you don't have to be fixing toilets. Like buy it and just bring a property manager in and they can run it all for you.
Let's talk about the pros of it. One of the pros of real estate that's different than a traditional stock portfolio, investment portfolio, is the leverage, right? That is one of the major arguments. And it's true, right? You are only putting, 20, 25% down, but you're getting appreciation on 100% of the value, right? So if you're buying a $100,000 property for ease, you're only having to put 25,000 down, but you get, your appreciation on 100,000. So that leverage is really awesome. I think real estate also is a good diversifier from the stock market. It doesn't always work, right? Sometimes they can be correlated, totally. But it does add diversification. They can move in different ways, and they have historically sometimes, right?
It does, especially if you look at it from a national perspective. Like if you're starting to buy multiple properties and you want to get away from a local area, if you start buying across the country, you're going to hit different pockets. So like you said, Arizona had a big COVID boom. Well, Phoenix had a big COVID boom. Chicago had ish. Now we're experiencing more of a growth in Chicago, where I think Phoenix is slowing down a little bit. If you're starting to funnel all of your real estate in one area, that's going to start to be a con versus a pro if you're trying to get diversified in your real estate portfolio.
Of course, like anything, it depends. Probably just like on an investment portfolio, it depends on what you invest in. But, if you're in really appreciating markets, you could outperform the stock market for sure, because the leverage and the boost. But what people don't factor in the returns many of times is maintenance, vacancies, and selling costs. But the markets really depend. It's kind of like when you bought and what goes on in that market. I remember when we went to go buy our first primary house here, Arizona really went crazy leading up to the global financial crisis, 2008, 2009. Arizona went bonkers. The house that I was looking at, I remember looking and I was like, it sold in 2007 for more than I could buy it today in 2018. It hadn't fully recovered. So it really depends on the timing you're buying and the market. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now in the United States right now. I mean, you look at Chicago where you are, multiple offer situation, completely crazy, prices are rising. I know other really weird states that this is happening in right now, but you take Phoenix right now, guess what's happening? We have more listings than ever. It is turning into a buyer's market. There's negotiation on the tables. Stuff is sitting, right? Completely opposite of Chicago. So, it really depends on the market.
The part that's interesting, and you were talking about it with leverage, like when you get a mortgage on an investment property. When you start to think about, okay, should I start investing in real estate and I want to flip? That's when your leverage can really work for you. But then it can also work against you if you start to get into a market that's starting to stall. Like, as if you buy that $100,000 house with that $25,000 down, or however much you have to qualify for that loan, and then you update it and you sell it for $150,000, and then you just keep on leveraging that and just keep on going. So that can be great when the market's going really well. When the market starts to slow down, then you start getting into some trouble.
Here's what's interesting about flips. They are heinous from a tax perspective. First of all, most of the time they're short term. What does that mean? Ordinary gains. Yuck. And if you're going to buy, you're going to sell that huge property and let's say you have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 gain on a property that you fixed and flipped. That's a huge tax bracket you just jumped at ordinary taxes. And if you're doing flips in the tax code, you might be able to get away with it with one, but there's something about being a dealer. It gets really complicated. I'm not going to go into it, but it can sometimes be subject to self-employment taxes.
Interesting. Now, you had mentioned about 1031s back when you were talking about other approaches. When you're doing the flips, you can't use that 1031. Let me say you can't. You probably won't be able to use that 1031 just because it's not meant for flips. And 1031 is all about deferring taxes. So it's, like you said, this is not going to be great from a tax perspective to do flips a lot.
Yeah. So flipping 1031 can get scrutinized. That can be hard because the intent has to be that you held the property for investment. That's my understanding. So if you're going to go flip it, and especially if you're doing a lot of these, you could then again, like I said, get a dealer status that then looks at these as inventory. And guess what? You've just subjected yourself to self-employment. 1031 is out the window. That is a whole complicated thing. I would say, and flips are freaking risky, right? Like you're putting all this capital in and you better hope the market doesn't move in the wrong direction in that time. Then
no risk, no risk, no reward, baby. Come on.
Oh man. But from the tax perspective too, I'm like, no. I mean, I do, if my clients want to invest in real estate, I'm like, okay, long-term investments. That's where it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think TV has glorified the flipping market. It's easy. Just put some money down, change the floors, change the windows, sell it for 50% more than you bought it for, move on to the next one. And it's not that at all.
Or if that's your intent, fix it up, rent it for a few years, get the depreciation, the tax advantages, turn it into a long-term investment, and then sell it. Or be able to do that. If the market is like, oh, you can flip it right now and you can sell it for, I don't know, a $300,000 gain and you really want to take those chips off the table, great. But I think if you're going to do fix and flip, you have to be able to hold it if the market turns on you. You have to be prepared for that.
That is a hard thing when the market turns. If we're looking at portfolios, so we're talking about, okay, real estate, if your ideal allocation is 10%, if you then go out into the market and say you've got $1 million portfolio, you buy a $200,000 house with a goal of flipping it for $250,000 and then putting that money back into your portfolio to get out of that exposure again. This is just a one-time thing. If you go into the marketplace and now you're sat with $200,000 your portfolio in a flip that's not selling, one, your exposure is now 20% versus 10, and now it's stalled. You can't get that money out quickly as you want it to. So this is like, it's a little bit playing with fire if you're trying to figure out, can I do real estate and keep my portfolio intact? You kind of have to separate the two.
Real estate is its own world when I think about it. I have them like separate on my client's net worth statement. Like liquid investments live in this realm. Real estate is in this bucket. Like I literally have them separated on the net worth statement because I'm literally thinking liquid versus not liquid.
Yep.
Very different. The other thing from real estate that I think you got to be really careful from going back into taxes, depreciation is really awesome, right? You could basically get to depreciate the building value. You have to back out land over 27 and a half years if it's residential. You know what happens is you're lowering the cost basis of that property. And there's depreciation recapture tax of 25%. Go into that later on a separate episode. But when you sell that big asset in 1 year, that is a huge gain. And you can't when you sell a property, you can't be like, hey, Dave, I'm going to sell half of it. Like you can in your portfolio, right? Like in our investment portfolios, if a client needs $10,000, we can just sell $10,000 of it, right? That's the beauty of it. Mm-hmm. But you can't be like, hey, I'm just going to sell 10% of my real estate property. Like that doesn't work. And so you then have this huge tax whammy in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And you have sales costs on it.
And it keeps coming.
There's a lot of planning with real estate. Real estate is much more complicated. Liquidity and really determining the return, because I think people don't really count. Real estate's very easy to be like, I bought it for 200 and I sold it for 400. That's not the real story. You paid interest, you paid property taxes, you paid mortgage interest, you definitely probably maintained it, you definitely paid some costs when you bought it. There's selling costs. You got to pay the agents on the other side. I mean, it's not a simple calculation, but I think people don't really track that. And so they're not really aware. They think they made a way bigger return than they actually did.
Mm-hmm.
I see that a lot.
Let me tell you a scenario I see more clients my age getting into. Not my age, my typical clients, that 55 to 75. When they're inheriting their parents' house when they pass away.
Yeah.
And it could be, okay, the house was paid off free and clear. There's step up in basis. We now own this house for $750. Let's rent it. Like, let's just get some income from it and that'll be great. It'll just be free money. It's not, because you realize that, okay, we're going to have to do some maintenance to make it rentable. So you're going to have to put some cash into it.
Yeah.
My main question to people is, did you want to be a landlord, or is this now just default because you inherited a house? And the main answer is, well, just because we inherited a house. We weren't really looking to do this. Like, well, why would you do this? Like, being a landlord can be a pain in the butt. It's nice when nothing goes wrong, but chances are something's going to happen. So you have to be intentional with being a landlord when you start inheriting real estate. If you don't want to do it, sell the house.
Okay, I'll put my bow on it. I've seen clients make a lot of money in investment properties. And shocker, I'm actually not against it. I'm really not. I have clients that are in real estate in different regards, whether they're architects, interior designers, realtors, mortgage lenders, whatever, right? You name it.
Mm-hmm.
They're in it. They're in the markets. They can see opportunity probably more than you and I could, to be honest, right?
Yeah. I
can run the numbers, but they're in it every day. So they're going to spot that deal. The thing is that I've seen, and this happened, I know many people in 2008, 2009, where they lost everything, was they weren't liquid enough to maintain these properties, and they over leveraged. That is the biggest concern. And so again, it comes to diversification. I think to outperform the stock market based on the research I've done, you either need to have an amazing freaking real estate agent that will be honest with you when there's a deal. You need to be in that right market, the right location, because that really depends. And you need to be liquid. But I definitely don't think that real estate, in my opinion, should be the only investment someone has. I don't think that's enough, because real estate is so illiquid.
All right, we're going to our next segment. It is called What Would You Do? This is the question segment of our podcast. You got 3 questions, all on real estate. Heather, first one coming at you. I came in at $250,000 after taxes were paid and would like to start investing in real estate. A single family home next to mine is for sale for $235,000. Is this a good first time purchase?
How do I answer this, Dave? I have more questions than answers. I mean, what do they have on the outside? Do they have an emergency reserve? Do they have other investments? Are they investing in retirement and a brokerage account? Like, is this a good first time purchase? I mean, I will say that I like it. It's next to them and they probably know the neighborhood. But yeah, I have maybe. I don't know. I'm sorry. I wish I could give it better. I don't know. I don't know a market. I don't know what's going on. Nope. What would you say to this person?
I don't think it's for us to answer. I think if you haven't done enough research to realize, is this a good purchase, then you're probably not qualified to buy the house.
Very good.
Because you should be understanding your market. You should be understanding what your personal finances are. And then you should be able to make a decision. If you're not sure, don't do it.
I do like, though, that if they're getting into if they did do all that research, they're buying in an area that they would watch and have probably seen history because it's in their neighborhood. So that might be good. They probably have more than going and buying in some random market that you have no idea about.
I agree. I think that's a big plus.
Yeah. Yeah. I have friends with differing opinions. Some advise purchasing homes with cash, while others suggest investing in REITs. What is the difference, and what is your opinion?
All right. So a REIT is an investment in real estate in an investment portfolio. You are purchasing multiple different types of real estate, or you can track an index in real estate and you're just throwing money into a fund. You can also sell it the next day and it's all liquid. If you are then saying, well, how does that compare with buying homes with cash? You're comparing chalk and cheese. They're vastly different. And even though you're still talking about real estate, it doesn't match. So if you're talking about investing and purchasing homes with cash, like buying them outright, that's probably the least risky way to invest in real estate. But you're taking a huge amount of your cash and leveraging it into one physical property. So it's essentially it's a lot of risk from a non-diversified approach.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And you're not using leverage. Some people like the fact that they can buy with cash and there's no risk there. Some people like using leverage and not using as much cash to buy the real estate. There's definite pros and cons to each. If I were to invest in real estate, I'm going to do it cash heavy. I am not going to leverage myself up to do it.
I'm going to leverage myself up. You're not. Shocker. Yeah. I'm like, I only like the part of real estate investing when there's leverage. That's what excites me about it.
All right. Question number 3. I'm actively purchasing investment properties. Is there a maximum percentage of my net worth that should be in real estate? Good question.
That's hard. You probably have a percentage. I think it depends on someone's age, where they are, how much real estate they have, how much debt, their cash flow. I would really need to dive into the numbers, but I will tell you, with my real estate clients, I try to keep them 50-50. So this is it's funny. They'll sell an investment property and I'm like, okay, so 50% of that after taxes and everything is going to your long-term investment portfolio where we're keeping you liquid. And then the other 50% you go do your next deal with. And it works out great.
I like that.
Well, because it keeps them going, but it keeps them also safe over here. So
I would do a sleep test on this. So if you're feeling uncomfortable with the amount of real estate you have as a proportion of your net worth and you can't sleep, then you have too much.
You're nicer than I am.
I just know that some people like to take a lot of risk. If you're aware that it could blow up in your face, great, take that risk. But some people like it.
Yeah, I don't. My clients that are in the real estate, right? If you think about it, and we kind of all laugh about it, it's a lot of adrenaline. It's a lot of risk. It's a lot of highs, right? They can get addicted to that. And so why do you think they're hiring me? Because I'm the one to be like, no, like they know they need to dial it down, right? And so, yeah, if it was up to them, they'd probably have 100% of their portfolio in real estate because that's what they understand.
All right, our final segment is called Highlights. This is where you get to know about us personally and our personal win. I have been randomly watching movies on Netflix. I don't typically watch movies. I like to watch shows and series, and I can just pick them up and put them down. I was sick last weekend, and I laid on the couch for probably like 7 hours and just watched movies back to back. There was one I picked up called The Weekend Away. Really good. Like, it had a nice twist at the end. It was kind of a mystery movie, but I was not expecting to enjoy it, and I really enjoyed it. And then I said to my parents who love watching movies, you should watch this movie. And they're connoisseurs, and they came back and like, yeah, I like that. Nice choice. Like, dang, maybe I should share this recommendation more. So there you go. The Weekend Away. I think it has Leighton Meester as the lead female in it. So it was good.
I haven't heard of that. Okay, my highlight and personal win is a little personal and sad, but it is a win. So I sold my mom's car on Friday. She had a Lexus SUV. So first of all, I priced at Carvana and the Lexus dealership.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think we got more?
Carvana.
That's what I would have thought too. I was shocked. I was at first just going to I'm like, no, something tells me. I went to the Lexus dealership. They actually gave more. It was the easiest process. They valeted us home. Like they drove us home. I did it within an hour, max.
Mm-hmm.
I did it by text with the guy. And my mom's getting like thousands of dollars back on her warranty too, which I think Carvana wouldn't have met. Like,
yeah. So,
I don't have a ton of experience in selling cars because I've always leased, and now I own my first car since I was 16. So, this was like a new experience for me. And I thought it was very interesting, but it was a little sad because my mom was giving up her independence and all of that. And that's a very, very, very hard thing. But it is also a win for the safety of my mom and drivers on the road. And that I got her top dollar. And I feel like I was a very good daughter.
All right, that is the end of our podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. You can find us on whichever platform you listen to podcasts. If you want to watch the show and watch more episodes, you can do that on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you want to send an email to the show, you can. We are at hello@playbookotw.com, and we'll see you next time.
Toodles!